traffic stops or walk you to your door. You say goodnight like 1,000 times before. This is the night I just want you to know. This is the night I just can't let you go. Why should we wait until tomorrow? Why should we wait until tomorrow? Well, I can't wait until tomorrow. I need you tonight. I drive away, but you're still on my mind. It's so hard leaving you behind. This is the night I just want you to know. This is the night I just can't let you go. Why should we wait until tomorrow?
Yarat aro khataso kizigi Hodoya Denebananda Dr. Bu Nygren for Nahui Jason Zonago Horohada Okisi Hehan Kedini Dolet Asiego Shit Inledo Asiego Bena Nishigi Horo the more not later Horo get Nash Nihigi Eshin Hot Air Horo Sabagan Hot Zando Winter Rock, Arizona Aro Horo Hanet Kitchen Eshe Sayo Kos do yo chin din da shin hot da jo maybe got in Hedini do it again. Upcoming holidays or appreciation days is yesterday was Just Do It Day. I think a lot of us grew up wearing Nike. A lot of us still continue to wear Nike, and that's one of those days where we continue to make sure that we if there's goals and things that you've been thinking about all year long, you know, now's the time to just try it and do it. But and I think that's one of those things where it was a day that was first celebrated in 2015. So I know that they're moving on and they're really trying to make those things happen. So again, if you feel like you're very ambitious and you want to just try it, yesterday was Just Do It, and you could do it today as well too. So, and then tomorrow is National Fun at Work Day. So I know the last Friday of every January, whether you work for a small or large organization like the Navajo Nation, it's a way to really bond with your coworkers, boost team morale, and really gain some inspiration. One of the things I do on a weekly basis is I'm always asking my division directors, what are you doing for employee happiness? On a week-to-week basis, I see the responses, whether it's talking to their employees or following up with them, or if it's a lunch or if it's a team gathering to share stories with one another. So those are some of the things that our teams are working on here on Navajo. But again, happy employees are more productive, successful, and loyal than unhappy employees as well too. So the more and more you talk to them and question them to see if this is the right avenue or the right path that they're trying to take, it's easier to do your job as well too. So again, that's tomorrow, National Fun at Work Day. And then some local announcements. I know, hold on, let me drink some coffee. There's something really messing with my throat here. I do cut off my coffee around 2 o'clock. So I try to get as much coffee as I can drink before 2 o'clock. So that's one of those tips I'll share with you. After 2 o'clock, it's going to mess with your sleep. So just avoid it. But before 2 o'clock, drink as much coffee as you can. So Chaco Canyon officials warn motorists of nearly impassable roads. So in the Chaco Canyon area, there's parts of the roads that are very muddy and impassable, and the cell service is not great. So if you're within that area or you see tourists cruising around that area, really advise them to not be in that area. So again, continue to watch out for one another. And the other announcement that I have is the livestock management incentive and farm and garden incentive. So on January 29th, the Navajo Nation Department of Agriculture will host an information session from 10 o'clock to 12 p.m. over Zoom. Kim Johnson and Ferdinand Nota with AIF will be there to answer any questions or really support you as well. So, but if you want to sign up, 928-871-6692. And when the chat's done, we'll make sure we put some of this info or this weekly updates done. We'll always make sure we put it in the summary of the posts of the live on some of these phone numbers that we do provide and information that we're providing as well. And you can also get that information at my Spotify too. So every Thursday at 1 o'clock, we do issue a Spotify audio that's in Navajo, and that's being played on the radio all over Navajo as we speak too as well. And so moving on to missing Navajo people, 64-year-old Billy Yazi Begay was last seen at 10 a.m. January 17th, Salina Springs, driving a 1994 white Chevy Silverado. So if you've seen him or know of his whereabouts, please contact Chinle Police, 928-647-2111. And 34-year-old Thompson Nez last seen on foot in Mini Farms on January 9th. If you know of his whereabouts as well too, or you've seen him, call 928-647-2111, Chinle Police Department. What is happening in the world? One of the things that that we can all relate to now is the weather, whether it's in San Diego, the Midwest, or the East Coast. We've gotten so much rain and snow and the different types of weather that's happening all over the country, and really seeing some of the changes. Again, I think that we're all experiencing it here on Navajo and experiencing all over the country. So again, one of those things is continue to check on one another, continue to call one another, and make sure we know where people are at all times as well too. So, but the weather is going to change according to the weather is supposed to warm up over the next week. In some areas, temperatures are going to change by over 50 degrees. So it'll be interesting to see that. And then this time in history, the first Winter Olympics. The first Winter Olympics was held in France in 1924, 100 years ago. So I think that those of you that appreciate the winter skating, the first Winter Games champion was Charles Dutroux, 500-meter speed skating. So that's the first champion. So just some interesting facts that we try to bring in this time in history as well. And then moving on to Navajo life lesson of the week: treat your goals like res ball. I guess don't be afraid or passionate to accomplish your goals. Whenever you play on the court, you put everything on the line, you play good defense, you fall back, and you make things happen, and you work hard, whether it's at home or visually, as you're seeking how to accomplish and how to be better as well. So use that same mentality with everything that you do in life, whether it's at a job or a new sport or school or something that you're trying to prepare for. Just think back in the days of playing on that dirt court at home, and that basketball goal that's made out of plywood and just the rim without a net. And then you got an old post that kind of is nailed to it, and knowing that it's not even 10 feet. It might be 8 feet, 11 inches, or 9 feet, 10 inches, or some cases they might be 12 feet, but who cares? Your mentality was, you know what? I'm going to get really good at shooting hoops in this goal, whatever the depth is. And then obviously when you get to school, everything's always 10 feet and you make those adjustments. But the mindset is really trying to make sure that you're watching yourself and making sure that you are laser focused, just like that when you move towards achieving certain goals in your life. A few of this week's accomplishments. One of the major accomplishments, I think, for the executive branch was really Again, Pueblo Pintado Senior Center opened. I know Division of Community Development, Department of Health, they really pushed that project. Again, Mr. Thomas, who works at DCD, for being the project manager, to getting that all across the field to work with our contractors, architects, designers, our chapter officials, our community members, to really open that beautiful facility that was $2.8 million with New Mexico capital outlay funding. Before it was in a double wide trailer that was really falling apart. It was from the early 80s. So it's a big upgrade for our elders in that area. And much thanks to our delegates that worked on this. It's Honorable Vince James, Honorable Seth Damon, Honorable Daniel So as well. He was the delegate in the 24th Navajo Nation Council, and all the representatives, the New Mexico side, that really fight and advocate for Navajo funding as well too. So thank you to all of them for making that happen. It was a wonderful experience, and it was such a beautiful facility that was open for the community. And it's supposed to house about over 80 of our elders on a day-to-day basis. So beautiful facility. It was great to be in Pueblo Pintado last week. And the other one is the Chinle VA expansion of services. My office, and working with the Northern Arizona Veterans Administration, Bobby, the Navajo Nation Veterans Administration, and working with IHS representatives, they've come together to make sure that we're offered the very first VA clinic on the Navajo Nation. So it's another big win for the Veterans Administration, another big win for Navajo. It's another first, just similar to opening that sober living facility a few months ago. And now we've got our first VA clinic here on Navajo, and partnering with IHS, and they're going to expand into Tuba City and Kayenta as well too. So again, much kudos for everybody that was involved and that got it across the finish line and get something accomplished. That usually big ideas like this are usually talked about for decades and years, and sometimes they don't get done. But through the work of the people that were directly involved, thank you to all of you. And I know it's going to benefit our Navajo veterans all across Navajo, and non-Navajo veterans as well too, that might be living in close vicinity to use that facility in Chinle. And then on Monday, I had the honor of giving my State of the Nation to the Navajo Nation Council, my quarterly update on the accomplishments that we've done in October, November, and December, and some of the challenges that we do have. Some of the things that we talked about was ARPA funding. What are some of the options and solutions, and what can we do? I know that by the time I got done with the State of the Nation, we're really going to make sure that we provide what my thoughts are on where to spend some of the ARPA money, and some of my thoughts on the UUFB excess funding. I know that was heavily requested from the BNF chair and some of the committee members. So we're putting that together, and I'm going to make sure we really try to do what we can to stick to some of the suggestions that we're going to provide. And one of the things I think about is really just using some of this funding to help our people that are just hit hard. I'm going to get down here in a little bit and talk about some of the places that I've been over the past week, but really making sure that we're helping our people back home and helping the people that just are just having a tough time, but they're watching over our lands as well too. So, it was good. It was good to be there with myself, the vice president as well, and really having her answer some of the questions that were being asked of both of us, and some of the work that she's been doing. I know that she does a lot of good work. She's always out and about in our communities and traveling and visiting chapters. Most of the time I'm here in the office, but she really takes care of a lot of the constituents out in the community as well. So I know she does a really good job representing myself and my priorities out in the communities. So thank you to Vice President. Lagudjugay business site lease signing. I'll be signing that later on today. I know those of you that are in the Lagudjugay, Round Rock area, Chinle area, we all know the burnout for the Speedway. It's been burnt out, and the business site lease was expired, and Speedway really wanted an updated business site lease. If not, then they were going to get ready to move on, but the community members really used that store. So we really expedited that process. Much thank you to Division of Economic Development and all the workers in there to really elevate that to where it's going to be signed by me later on today. So we can send that over to Speedway, and they're supposed to invest about $2 million back into reopening that facility as well too. So thank you to Speedway and bringing some of those communities there together. And big shout out to Vicki Shirley, my was central agency representative who literally walked this from the beginning. We're meeting with the community members, meeting with the stores, working with Honorable Carl Slater and the chapters as well to get this accomplished. So again, thank you. And through partnership, we just, as long as we set our priorities and our goals on the same thing that's helping our communities, tangible things that will help our communities, it's just so much easier for us to make things happen. So again, I appreciate that. Some of the major projects we're working on, the Navajo Nation Warriors Home. It's about 6 months ago, I did sign a contract and approval to really push the $29 million for the VA veterans and housing facility here in Chinle as well too. But with the cost of construction escalation and everything, they are way out of budget to provide the 60 beds for our elderly veterans as well too. So again, we've developed a solution, because some of the solutions was, do we go back to the Navajo Nation government? Do we ask some delegates to introduce legislations, or what do we do? And one of the things that Bobby and her group, the Veterans Administration Department, reached out to the U.S. Veterans Administration, and they're going to apply for a grant through the USVA for about $60 million. And we'll see how much of that they do get, and it's going to make that project even more feasible. So it's going to be first of its kind. And I think it's going to be one of those things where it's really going to bring a much needed facility to Navajo as well. Pinon Navajo partition land families. On Tuesday, I was out in the Pinon area and the Navajo partition lands, met with relocatees, met with some second generation relocatees. I wanted to go see their struggles on a day-to-day basis. So I got to hear from our chapter officials in Pinon, the president, the vice president, secretary, and all the staff, and some of the affected people as well. And then I spent the rest of the day visiting families, about 15 to 16 miles off the road and side routes and whatnot, and really saw some heartbreaking scenarios where our people are constantly still trying to struggle, but they had that smile on, though. They're not gonna give up. And that's what I appreciate about our people sometimes, that they fight and fight every single day in hopes that one of these days government and our leaders will think of them. And I was happy to be out there, because you've got families and grandpas that just need a home site lease. There's one example where I visited a home, a grandpa, he had a physical condition to where he couldn't use his hands. It's been over 2 decades that he got in a car accident. He's got his son, his daughter, his 2 kids, and his grandkids, and they all live in this hogan, dirt floor, no electricity, no running water. They did have an extension cord running about 400 feet from their relative, and the extension cord was in terrible condition. But they had to do what they got to do, and they're really trying to survive. And I sat there and I thought to myself, this is why we're in government. This is why we do what we do. We try to give people an opportunity to make a life here on Navajo. And if we can't do that, then why are we here? And so one of the things that I really want to do is help people like that. And one of the things I asked them is we're going to try to work on getting you a bathroom addition, a water line, work with NTUA so you can get a power line extension to your home, and really help people like that, because there's so much federal funding out there that we have right now. And that's going to be part of the reallocation is, we just got to bring basic infrastructure to people like that live here every single day. And why do we make it so difficult in our home site lease process? And I know RDC is going to be seeing a home site lease legislation very soon. I think it's going through the works, and it's going to be exciting to see some of the changes that we're going to do, because we can't let government get in the way, and people are suffering all day, every day. And one of the other things that we visited was relocatees who had their homes built in areas where obviously they needed a post-tension slabs, maybe with some piers under it. So a lot of these clay areas, they assume it was good ground to where it's not clayey, and they just built them as if they were building, for example, in my area where it's not clayey, or up in the mountain areas like that. So just houses are shifting, restrooms and plumbing and sewers are broken because of the land shifting, and some of those areas, the sewer was going back into their homes, and it's starting to make the families and the kids sick. So things like that. I was able to spend a few hours out there, visited with a lot of families, And one of the things I assured them is that I'm going to work with the Navajo Nation Council to make sure that sewers and septic lines, and work with IHS to make sure that we go back and fix some of those scenarios. If we have an unprecedented amount of resources, we got to make sure that we work with our contractors, work with our engineers, work with our government entities, so that we're out there serving these people. So the issue is not funding. The issue is we got to coordinate. We just got to make sure that government gets out of the way, and people, while we're talking about this, those families are dealing with sewer smell that's coming back in under their homes. So scenarios like that, it was good for me to see it, walk the walk, and be out in the mud and talk with them and hear from them firsthand. So again, I know I talked extensively on that, but I just really wanted to share that story with you all. And then also, as we move on, we've got Pacific University meet and greet. With some meet and greets, we had some students come out to Lagajuge as well. So we get people from all over the country and all over the world that come to Navajo to volunteer, to help us, to give us some hope, to help our elders. And it's very warming to see that they came all the way from Oregon, 1,200 miles, to come to Navajo, to chop wood, haul water, carry water in, to pick up some trash, to help some elders, their service and commitment. And I think those are some of the things that we can continue to take on as we move on to. Those are some of the values of being Navajo, always watching out for one another. And I think those are some of the teachings we can continue to pass on as our next generations grow as well. And also another good groundbreaking that I attended was Tehachapi High School groundbreaking. The brand new school, $68 million. McKinley County superintendent, the board, wonderful job. It was good to be there. This facility is going to have be able to hold 300 students. It's going to have a gym that will have a capacity of 2,000 Cougar fans. I know they're multiple time state champions as well. So again, many kudos to Tehachapi, the school board, the superintendent, the principal, the honorable delegates that worked very hard to be there as well to push this across the line. So again, thank you so much to Tehachapi for inviting me to be out there and share some words with our students as well. And also yesterday, yesterday was also a good day. I met with the Eastern Navajo Veterans Organization, commanders, vice commanders, secretaries, staff from the Navajo VA's office, and my liaison, Olin, from my office, my Eastern representative from my office, Jesse Jim, really worked through some of the challenges that our veterans are having. First one is payments. And that's one of the things that we're working on, as I stated in State of the Nation, is we're gonna solve it. I know it's been many, many presidents that has dealt with this issue of paying our veterans on time, but we're going to fix it. I'm excited. We're going to try to replicate the TANF process so that it's a lot easier for our veterans to get paid on time. And the other thing they brought up was buying life insurance for our veterans. Why can't they put a life insurance trust fund aside to where, because funerals are real expensive, $10,000, $15,000, some of them $20,000. And if you have a life insurance that we can purchase for them for a couple $100, that really helps the nation in the long haul and helps our families as well too. So our veterans families. So again, those are some of the things that we talked about. Upcoming events this week. We've got the monthly leadership meeting that's going to be on its way. It's going to be good to meet with. This will be the fourth leadership meeting with council, and we go back and forth. So the first time we had it in my office. Next time I went over to council. Now they're going to come back over. I think, no, this is the third one. This is the third leadership meeting, I believe. And they're going to have it over here in my office, and we're going to be able to talk about some of our priorities, because meeting on a quarterly basis is not enough. And so having a really good discussion internally on a monthly basis with leadership is really going to help us push initiatives forward. So again, I really appreciate your Navajo Nation Council delegates that have been taking this leadership meeting seriously, because I get to hear it firsthand, not just every other quarter, but I get to hear it on a monthly basis on some of their priorities. So again, if you know of your delegate, kind of nudge them a little bit and say, hey, how was the leadership meeting with the president that you have on a monthly basis? And really, I would love to see all 22, 23, 24 delegates at this monthly leadership meeting as well. So again, next thing on the agenda too next week is I'm going to visit some Albuquerque public school students. There's 40 plus students that are out there that are Navajo, and really meet and greet and say hi to them as well. So in closing, I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in every week, whether it's on the radio, whether it's on Spotify. Remember, there's Spotify. So if you miss my Navajo, if you really want to hear, Shin Hatat Okis. Benesh Anit or Nebazalbe, the Nebebel Nashnet or the whole Niligi, the Archist or His and Neligi, Hot also the Nebebel Nashne, a Massan and Lib on the Bagando, Sashibel Garnet or the at the neck at the stream. Dan son Spotify or Apple Podcast. I dancing the listen base behind net had a jahagia say yego ye be dan nothing. Ishin aja had a dog kiss aja she the neck at chin kitchen yashket. Oh, what in Hojeni not so be gia say abelganic at your day. The hadish kiss ishi so hot sashin dan not in yego in his bad husband do let ebe a hehan hedini do it say yego. Should the net and Thinigi as Benesh Anit or a yo bohonet long the Nebanant na Hansh na Hanses case or the say yeg halet all lato lake halet all na o camp all Beshbans and Hatnas or the not ani than Lenigida the end Stadin how so is it Kenigida Benanta Hajobachiyati and you know as to how these links on Hanses case need the more not leon the Hajos case not how these. Don't get me started in Navajo. Then I keep speaking Navajo. So I'm going to make sure I come back to English. But those of you interested in Navajo, tune in to Spotify. How going it?
Yat she Edo she Thomas Cody when she has gone zone so tradis like but she do Division of Social Service for ARJ shada anisto shin tag AD chinado a mother jada dan lenny ARJ bestay nil nis sa quite ben chihodes asike preserving Navajo families that be no a bit of del nishada jo the chapters nas the churches nas the ado the hatral the yebe cheban the alteta jo the et na a belt is o ya dal tito les ado zo e be da hin tindo dan ki epic e hashin tsako Hashin sabo di kwa nasko ebesteni kato lecho eben ya kwa ben schischen da di nis eben ya di jo di president ja en trago bet de snil khala be large and khasses zo di kwajita anishigi di da do da do di nicht no jo di lacht opinion den ich I trahati yalin da hot di any the ahwas na sin saban hik yeg bet da has go keda hat eniki jo de binne de binne ba na has ko ko ji shut an ne jo je bin deilnes din lay Texas Christian University but no de besta hil so khasin sago es ka di ja do ko Flagstaff Unified School District lay Loop Schools the principal Aja Ryan Chi to yego yinal nish an le kinahal grete de IHS bahas an de aden de ya hol net di trust-based rational prevent intervention is no a TBRI that no a that is that is nesto hashin so nik ebe ka di ja no a kwa ke ben de nis akoti in latte as I it was nice to be that one nisike can sanate Miller America the a kwa youth conference bond the shinna hashin sako a bit yadal tito le a be ado it a horse after late dabiti no a February 16th to a Friday a quack a hashin a bit that day in the store late ado a 17th ado 18th acquired a youth conference but the a kwaje hashin sako nikita na ethnic shorty tabato nasa Christians do Atlanta so arje da he kati youth china arje youth agi hat ben de nis arje kokwa na ha china arje de shaftan no 30 kids hatin no china ba ho ato le kwa na but no tis the Texas Christian University added na ché kako ka enne hi cha trinne da titole die it de nebesna an nis trinne no senigi dit na gymnasko de no kako na dit de nebes do trinne das hot arbet da titole bet no kot an dat bet ni tra February 16th and 18th of course the Texas Christian University do Loops Public School do and here principal Ryan Chiche ad ya has net do lelit na ha chine ben deel na sto les open ya at echo and do ni sto naste ye gras do les eben yes was na ha chin al competent yosne tratino bahas do les Ado Kone Ebenade a faith-based initiative she a con radio Bakago de TED at City with no but no the electrifying ministry. You know the in hitch hanatze what kit has what in the neben and the story the nebet that no the in hitch hanatze ado Daniel Cheese red hand ministry de ko Niet hada zo de na kidas the more just shit to are in hit understand shake go that's it to start see ko shake this week the as cash it in it hananas titole do next week do in he president be the after preserving Navajo families the Nilkischen da deal nish the churches das nil da da tralte de zo an hilt hada dole do ja da hit dole chapter houses and the yego hashin tsago ha chne binne ba da wil do is twido sani da chapter meeting da nasi do ni da kheta kwa zo and these ni no ad preserving Navajo families Asian president do next week do in hit hanatzeko na kidas the more not or le do konne ad na chne shit masan and slini do another do kid no slinigi an hisa do chine ba da wil ya do da no sino ein hot Department of Child Care Development Fund beso yanne nilla yanne nilo kwa ni ka do jahash khod na khalchne an hin hinalik ni hinalet an hi to keda ba da hosya do le okot ni ka do to ni hizad be bit ya da do le da ga da na khalchne be ni hinalik kebe and dan noch kindle kwa silver smith dit la se hat da latsene da kwa ben da so ein ni hin nach echos do les do di ein stu go dort hat da ges de besen da khajo an hin khalchen ni za be da hos do na khalchen do bit da inos de nek da de yimbaza de nek da ba ka with de inos do la kana makona sos landan de ko hashin be ni ka do ja ashode kon ni hit hasti do de ha
Yat Asitsa, can you hear me? Uh, good afternoon. Yeah, any get to Shinole, Alicia Kwasane. Shady, I'm having some technical issues here. Let me see. Wait up just a second. I'm having some camera issues. Some minutes. So, why is this not working? I apologize, and see. Just a second. Okay. Just a minute. I'm trying to get my camera working. Yate Kodosh Kwasana, Shay Tony Skolanis Ayan Shia. I am the division director for economic development, and I'm from a place called Big Mountain. That's way in western Navajo, not Navajo Mountain. People always ask when I say Big Mountain, is that the Navajo Mountain? And no, it's next to Black Mesa. It's the same kind of plateau area. And Lithuanian touchy ni will yao a bashin Lithuanian do and I was raised by my great grandparents, and that's one of the fortunate events in my life, and that's how I'm able to really speak our language. And I have a real traditional upbringing, being raised by my great grandparents, herding sheep and raising crops, and really learning the old way of life. And so I feel like that's really helped me in guiding our nation down an economic path. Yeah. And so I want to talk a little bit about that today. That how that inspires that, and I went and got a MBA business degree, and really there was two paths there, and that's I think a lot of choice that I know young people have to make these days is do I pick the corporate path, which is really admirable, or do I come and help my people? And I've kind of done both. As a young person, I really wanted to help our nation. When I was in business school, I studied things. You have all heard about the Local Governance Act, yeah. When I was in grad school, I went and got my MBA. I really studied just like how communities make decisions. I really studied how I was given a project in college. One of my professors said, you'd be perfect for this organization that's doing some important work, and it was really with a tribe. It was a whole tribal government where I had to develop an economic plan with them, and I had to be really resourceful, yeah. But I think that was really a really good experience because it allowed me to really pull out all the stops. This community that didn't have an economic plan. Their only option that they were looking for was waste incinerator, and they still had their culture, they still had their traditions. They lived they're called the Kaibat Paiute is who I helped. They live on the north side of the Grand Canyon, the Kaparo's Plateau. And I remember going out there and really trying to figure things out. I had to bring on help, so I started a real study of what's called community planning. And I really looked at, well, let's work with this community. And they're very cultural. They're very concerned about saving their culture. They're really concerned about their land and their environment. This is why they chose not to go forward with a waste incinerator, but it we had to choose an options, and so what I did is I worked with the community. I would put together like evening events. I would put together hot dog dinners, just really creative. I put together little cookouts at the park and bingo nights, and really engage the community, and that was a really good experience for me, and that allowed me to then learn about how to engage, how to. I also had to figure out how to help the community make a decision. There's a lot of options. People brainstorm a lot of different ways to develop, and there's always the young people want to do certain things, the older people want to protect certain things. So it's finding that middle ground, and so that's where my career was launched in this field of economic development. And I loved it. I really enjoyed helping figure these strategies out. And then I started working with chapters. I helped a couple of chapters actually develop um, economic development plans, really. But in doing that, I found on Navajo that the communities had really no authority. They couldn't even land use plan that was really an authority under the Navajo community development. Chapters have no wherewithal to do anything. They couldn't zone, they couldn't tax, they couldn't manage leases. Their staff wasn't there. The personnel, they couldn't pay people more than like $20,000 a person. Every chapter was the same, and so you had big chapters, small chapters with a big portion of a opportunity. You had some that had all kinds of challenges. So that's really where I cut my teeth, and I learned how to plan with communities. But I also saw like some real challenges, and so I was really fortunate as a young man to be offered the job to help our nation develop the Local Governance Act. I work with our former president, Albert Hale. I work with our former speaker and president, Kelsey Begay. And we developed, that was really my first big project after I left grad school, was to develop the Local Governance Act. And we put that together over like 3 years. We really, again, the same way I engaged the chapters is the same way we work with Paiute, how we had developed the economic plan, all those tools that we used on developing the LGA. And so, but I really wanted to talk about that because people don't realize, that this is really, there's a study that Harvard did where they said that one of the biggest things that ensures effectiveness for tribes that are really effective is that their government matches their culture, and that there's local decision making. That when a community makes decisions, they're going to make mistakes, but they're going to succeed also. So when the communities are allowed to do those things, you see a lot of success, and that's really from the Harvard research. And so that's really what we wanted to do here, was allow communities to give them all the tools, with accountability. That's why I know Auditor General's office, they created the 5 management systems, and they say if the chapters have those systems in place, then they're very likely to govern with accountability. So that's really the process that we followed. There's a lot of authorities under there. Everything from business site leasing, you can take over that authority. You can do local taxes, revenue generation, a lot of ways to generate revenue, a lot of opportunities there. You can create your own accounting, you can create your own personnel and pay systems. You can even adopt different forms of government. So a lot of these are through local decision-making processes, and this took a lot of work. We put a lot of work into these processes. So, but the big thing here was allowing the communities to develop, to plan for economic development, to give them incentives. So that's where we created like the local sales tax, so the community has the ability to generate revenue and it's an incentive for development. They can also zone, they can withdraw land, they can do leases at that juncture. The next thing we did is we went after the business site leasing. We got that delegated from Congress to the Navajo Nation. At that time, all leases had to go through the BIA, and the council, the Economic Development Committee, had to approve all leases. And you can imagine just how cumbersome that was. And you'd have the Navajo Nation do the whole lease process, then it really would kind of repeat itself in the BIA. And so we asked Congress, we were the second tribe in the nation after the Tulalip tribe to get authority over leasing. And so we had to go to Congress for that. Congress loved the idea. They said, we really like that you're wanting to take over this authority. Self-governance is a big deal to Congress. And so we've taken that authority over, and it's so that's back then. But now the thing is that there's about half the chapters are certified, but there's a real lack of support for, and again, there's very few people that are really educated on the Local Governance Act and just the authorities that the chapters have. And so I really wanted to focus on that, and just how it relates to small business. The way this would work in the optimum scenarios is a community designs its community, its whole land use. What areas should be protected, what areas should have green belts, what kind of architectural standards ought to be developed to guide development. Where should industrial, light industrial, heavy industrial, where should light commercial, heavy commercial, where should be retail, where should be hospitality, medical, how's that all going to lay out, where are the roads, thinking about all those pieces, and the community has that authority. But the big ability is to bring in the dollars to do that. I mean, this is where LGA is really has its potential, and the ability to borrow money so we can pay for some of the infrastructure using the tax revenue from current to future. That was what we envision. The ability to be creative and create like special user districts. That's how a lot of projects are funded off res in these big cities. So we really, and then the hope was that chapters would also come together and create like economic development authorities, the development vehicles that could drive their development. They could do interchapter agreements for accounting and personnel management, all those things. But what's happened now is that there's been very little support. So I know our President Nygren, has really wanted to really re-energize and kind of go back to the initial vision, to update as appropriate. So there's a big effort around that, and I just thought I'd really kind of educate folks on just where this came from, and what the intent was. It's a really it can be really effective for the nation. It can allow us to really move forward, but I think there's more that has to be done. And now that I'm in the Division of Economic Development, I see that we got to support the chapters. We got to look at ways to decentralize our programs. We got to look at support chapters that want to take on economic development themselves, that want to maybe create their own offices. We got to figure out, how do we do that? I mean, our division we're one of the smallest divisions. We're like one of the lowest funded divisions. So how do we then decentralize our services, efficiently? I mean, not every chapter, I think, can have their own business department, unless they're funding most of it. So we got to really think all this process through, and that's really where the president has asked us, like, how do we do this? How do we carry this out? I think the upside to this is that the chapters, if they're driving development, if they're really managing things and doing things, it's going to result in more development and more revenue for the nation. That's really what we're after. We can lay on top of this really improvement in the business site leasing process, which is something we're massively undertaking. We're going to be we've done a bunch of work on amending the leases now, and again, it goes back to the intent of this. Why we went to Congress was, we asked Congress, it's like, you guys, this is too cumbersome. We can't have two processes, but we also have to create incentives for the businesses. We're going to make it where it's reasonable. We really have to have that authority locally to speed it up. It's got to be easier to start a business. And I think there's some of those things we've lost that intent to. We lost an original reason of why we went to Congress. So it's really going back to that, and again, really revising these processes so it meets that original intent of why we took over leasing in the first place. So we're looking at these things. We're really interlaying this on top of this with like finance, right? We're launching a whole bunch of initiatives. We're right now putting the final details on relaunching the ARPA hardship assistance program, $5,000 to $60,000 grants for people that were really impacted. A lot of businesses were impacted that didn't get funding. Some of them were approved for funding, but for various reasons, the funding never came to them. So we want to really address these businesses that were already approved, and also businesses that were just didn't get any help, and a lot of them didn't. So and some of them are larger businesses. So we got to figure something out for those larger businesses. So we're about to relaunch that. You guys have all heard the press release, and you've seen it. The SSBCI, the 88.9 million that's coming to Navajo. We are really working to share information on this. It's really going to be a loan participation, loan guarantee program. The SSBCI is not a grant program, but it's really financing. And a lot of businesses, the banks don't lend to our businesses on Navajo right now. Very few of them will finance a business because just the guarantees. They really need some guarantees, and so this program allows like 50%, 80% guarantee on the financing that are done by certain banks. So so one of our partners in this is Change Labs from Tuba City. We're also developing internally, but what Change Labs will do is they'll do financing for like smaller amounts. I think up to 250K, and then the larger amounts will fall on the division. Same scenario. We'll be working with financial institutions and banks, and they'll be the ones that are really processing and structuring the guarantee, structuring the loans. But loan guarantee allows almost all Navajos with a good business idea to get financing. That's really what's important. So I really wanted to just highlight those things. I think I'm going over time here. But yeah, it's done, and I really appreciate this work, this assignment that the president has given me, and the honor of working with our leaders and with our at all levels, from the communities, from to the central government, with the council, division directors. It's really a very unique time, and I'm seeing, before I was actually in this role years ago, I was a young guy in the block. I just had all my business education, and but I've learned a lot as an entrepreneur, as a nonprofit leader. Now I'm back, and it's really a unique opportunity. I really appreciate it. I take it very serious. We're doing so much across Navajo land. We have projects in Shiprock. Yesterday, I was looking at all the private lands that we own in Gallup. We have properties outside of places like Page, and we're really working to develop these places because so much tourism goes to these areas. There's so much potential. We have power plants that are closing or that have closed, and we got to look at transition economics. So we're out there. We're really working with our communities. A bunch of stuff near Twin Arrows because we have a bunch of land out there, and really we really want to move development in a large way in places where it makes sense, where there's infrastructure, where it's easier, it's faster. We are looking at Chinle too, and some of these communities where we've been talking to Bashes about a small grocery store concept, 5,000 square foot. We're really being creative on things like family entertainment. How do we do it in small communities? How do we do theaters, playhouses, game rooms, internet kind of things, like cafes, coffee shops? How are we going to really increase these kinds of activities in our communities? So we're looking at that. Today, President and I are headed to Lokachukai to sign a lease for a Speedy's gas station, But what if we could take that idea and say, how do we enhance the Speedy's? How do we make it where there's a small grocery store in there, healthy food too with local buying? That's something we're talking to Bashes about. We just it looks like I'm kind of at the end.
Director's gone.
Yeah.
What
Okay.
do we have here? We need to talk about.
Got it. Thank you.
I don't know what's going on with we're on the schedule. Good afternoon. This is Michael Anderson, the Executive Division Director for Public Safety. To take this opportunity to wish everybody a good week and hope everybody's traveling safely.
Beautiful you. Don't you know that I love you? Don't you know that I want you? Hey, every day. Sweet, beautiful you. Oh, my baby, you're the one I like to share this dance with. To the bitter end. I don't know why you get so mad and jealous sometimes. It took me a lifetime just to find you, babe. Well, I searched this world high and low till I found you, and now you're mine, sweet baby. Oh, can't you see? Sweet, beautiful you. Don't you know that